Hello and welcome to a less historic episode, number 201 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
And I'm Bill. And we're sitting around being excited, waiting for the NFC and AFC championship games today. And so Jason and I talked about a little bit offline. And for one of the few times in our lives, we can live with whoever wins any of the games.
Yeah.
And that's really rare. I mean, because the one thing about sports is you love a team or you hate a team. And I kind of like all these teams, and I don't dislike any of them. There's something about each team that I like. And so it'll make it for a really fun day to watch. The other beauty for me is it's about going to be 80 during the game here in Tampa.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to open up all my windows and watch that game in Green Bay.
Oh, that's very nice. Yeah, I think I told you offline.
Bad weather on my TV when I don't have bad weather outside.
Yeah.
Which is a little mean, but it just goes with the turf.
Goes with the turf. I think we said offline, like, if you were doing most tortured fan base sort of situation, Buffalo is probably the team you want to root for. They've had the least amount of Super Bowl success. So,
yeah.
And again, they have a great fan base, very loyal. I think Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, like the fun team. I mean, it's hard not to love Pat Mahomes. As I get older, like, I do find myself rooting for Brady, even though I rooted against Brady for 20 consecutive years in New England. But now...
But we rationalized that, given our hate for the Patriots.
Yeah.
We rationalized that Brady wins, that's bad for the Patriots, so that makes it even more exciting for us.
It is a nice...
Both at Mello and Brady.
Yeah. And then, as you said, I mean, Green Bay's got a great fan base. They're, one of the original teams. They're a classic team. The frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. I mean, I would say legacy-wise, I think Brady's, whether he wins this one or not, you can't really go up any higher than he has. And I'm not sure one more Super Bowl does much for Aaron Rodgers' career either, This probably legacy-wise would...
tie with Brett Favre, so now he wins 2-1.
Yeah. But I think in terms of, over the history, I think people already view him as a better quarterback than Brett Favre. And I think Brett Favre's post-career, picture-taking, his amateur photography, and things he said along the lines have not helped his legacy move forward. So, but I think for Josh Allen, this is one of those legacy-defining games.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
He made playing fantasy football so much fun for us.
He did.
6 touchdowns or 5 picks. I loved it. I loved the fact that he would always throw the ball.
Always.
But we got, weather will play a role today. Nerves will play a role today.
And Mahomes,
play a role today.
And Mahomes is coming off a concussion.
Time adjustments are going to be big today.
Yeah, and the concussion, I mean, I know he cleared protocol and he looks like he's ready to go, but, I mean, a concussion is a concussion. And, if it takes him off a half second or, delays any responses during the game, that could affect Patrick Mahomes,
Yeah.
And the fact that the Chiefs are still again, we talked about the irony of the fact that they're a team that won the number 1 seed, but we felt like they weren't playing great football. They still haven't looked, the Browns easily could have won that game, easily. And, I don't know if that says more about the Browns or the Chiefs, but the Chiefs, I don't think the Buffalo Bills are a team the Chiefs can afford to play with.
No, I don't either. I think that, they can throw, they can run, and your defense has looked much better since the last time we played. Both of these teams, Buffalo lost to the Chiefs, and the Packers got hammered by the Bucs.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that's a factor or not a non-factor. I'm just saying that happened. So let's see what happens this time.
And
the Bucs defense looked really good. They get Vita Vea coming back. To me, the key to the game is not the Bucs offense; it's the Bucs defense.
yes. And,
Keep him playing like that and off his spot. And Aaron Rodgers can move around pretty good, make some good passes, but he's very, very much disruptive during that first game.
Very much so. But Brady also does not have Antonio Brown, who had really been balling lately. So.
Yeah, but remember that other guy that was kind of like the Wes Welker?
Oh, yeah.
And Scott or something like that? He's back.
Scotty Miller, yeah.
Got a big pass last week.
It's true.
I think that he could have a big role today.
He really could.
So it's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of fun. And while we're on the NFL, what do you think about Matt Stafford news?
I think that Matt Ryan are definitely coming. I mean, you know, as we talked about off air and we talked about at the end of the episode last week, we're really hoping Roethlisberger is also on the move in a different sort of way. But I mean, I think we have a lot of changes coming. Deshaun Watson has made it clear he doesn't want to be in Houston. And I think,
First New York over Miami.
which is interesting.
Very interesting.
And I've been confused on the Tua conversation. Like, there was an entire tank for Tua campaign. Tua was a can't-miss prospect. He obviously had the injury. He came back in the COVID year, and he did not look great last year. I'm not going to pretend like Tua, looked like the next coming of a quarterback. But for a guy with that pedigree and everything else, and like I said, you came back from a major injury into COVID times where you couldn't practice as much. New system, new coach. Like, for everybody to just sort of write him off like he's Josh Rosen has been sort of weird. Now, I mean, I know the Dolphins obviously had a year with him, so they probably know better than anybody, but it seems like he's an incredibly distressed asset right now.
I haven't seen anything yet that makes me say give up on him. Not at all.
No.
But if I had the chance to trade Tua for Deshaun Watson, I'm going to do that.
Oh yeah, like if I was Miami or if I was Houston and they're going to give me my number 3 overall pick that they already own, my second round pick, Tua, and then maybe if Miami's number 1 the next year, and maybe another 2 down the line or a 3, like, I'm jumping at that. I'm right back in the rebuild with a top 5 quarterback from a year ago.
Yeah.
Unless I'm in love with Justin Fields, and then I'm letting New York call me, and I know I'm leaving the draft with at least Justin Fields, And maybe I ask for Sam Darnold, and we try to get a third team in there, and I try to dump Darnold for another second-round pick and restock that way,
Well, it's interesting. And the Matt Stafford to Indianapolis rumors are the ones that make the most sense.
They do.
He's older. He wants to go play on a contender. He can step in there for Phillip Rivers. Everything else is around him. I mean, that's a good situation.
It is. And
they immediately vault to, maybe a 2 or 3 consideration for the AFC Championship next year.
I think so. And then you got to wonder about Philadelphia right now. Like, I don't think you want Carson Wentz and Jalen. I mean, maybe you do, but I don't know if that's a good situation for if either of those quarterbacks is going to grow and be the guy, and that's your goal. And it sounds like the owner really wants Carson Wentz to be his man. I mean, obviously financial reasons involved as well. Like,
fired his coach, so.
Yeah. I don't think you keep Jalen Hurts on that team. I think you can't have Carson Wentz struggling anytime next year with Jalen Hurts on the bench. With the way it seemed like Jalen Hurts had already won that locker room, like, I think you got to put him on the move too.
Yeah.
And then there's talk of Matt Ryan maybe
real
moving.
Interesting offseason and draft, and with probably no preseason again next year, that makes it tough.
Yeah.
It's huge,
And 5 or 6 potential first-round quarterbacks this year. It's a thing. It's crazy. I mean, if you're the NFL, though, it's tons of content, tons of people talking about you. It's pretty fantastic. And again, like we said, it's off the air, you're going to have a really good story, feel-good story, no matter who wins the Super Bowl this year. So you're looking great.
You either defended it or you made the moves that made your team come back from where they were predicted. Now, if I look back at what I said at the beginning of the year, and I picked the Packers to win their division. I picked the Chiefs to win their division. I think I picked the Bucs second in their division.
I picked the Bucs first.
I'm pretty sure I picked New Orleans.
Yeah.
And we both picked Buffalo, so we did pretty good.
We did. And I actually picked the Bucs because I got Tom Brady fever this year for some reason.
Yeah, I think I picked New Orleans, but then that's before I understood that there was going to be an on-field advantage.
But New Orleans, to be fair, New Orleans won the division.
Yeah, they did.
So,
I think it was the division, but if talking about that, I feel really bad for Drew Brees. I mean, I hope that's not his last game. I hope he doesn't.
Oh, he retired already. That was his last game.
He could not play.
No. But to be fair, much like Roethlisberger and Rivers, like, Brees is not. I mean, Brady's an anomaly. Brees has been a shadow of himself for 2 seasons, just like Rivers and Roethlisberger. Like, those guys are toast. Whereas Brady somehow, his face is getting younger. He's growing more hair. His arm strength seems pretty similar. I don't know how it's done. It's amazing. I don't want to go on the TB12 diet, but maybe I'm going to have to at some point.
Grow up at Brady's attic. It's a picture of Brady that's growing old while he grows young.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty incredible.
Very incredible.
Well, moving on to the NBA, we had our first two games of the Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant super trio. And they went 1-1 against the Cavs.
I listened to an interview with James Harden today, and James Harden was saying that he loves a role like this where he doesn't have to do all the scoring, where he can get rebounds and assists.
Yeah.
So I wrote a note to myself. He said that on January the 24th, and I'm going to see how long that plays out.
Well, I think your worry with Brooklyn is you can't play defense and stop anybody. Now, maybe nobody can stop you offensively, even if you only have two of those guys going any given night. They can go down, and that trio could put up 100 points between the three of them every night. But you have nobody that can stop anybody. And even your young...
There's to stop anybody.
Yeah.
I think that, look at the assistant coach on the team. I think they prefer to play that way. We'll get 140, we win 130, 38, we win.
Yeah, but I think you still want a big body to throw. I think what could be coming down the road, because Cleveland basically got Jared Allen out of that deal. They joined the thing. And Jared Allen's a really nice young big, which gives Cleveland Jared Allen, Andre Drummond, Kevin Love, who's not really a defensive player. And I think they have another big on that team somewhere. So maybe maybe at some point they throw one of those guys back to Brooklyn to give, because if you're Brooklyn, you do have to have somebody big to bang against Giannis, Embiid, and then eventually the LeBron AD combo. So you're not just destroyed inside. If that's your ultimate goal. So I think they have to, I don't know what their move is, considering they gave up every young asset and, all their picks that they could possibly give away and all their pick their pick swaps. But I think they need a big that can at least just a body to throw against those guys.
They're in that win now. You got a 2-year window to win.
Yeah.
That's where they are. And if not, they're going to be bad for a long time.
A long time. Although we said they were going to be bad for a long time when they did the trade. They brought them Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and that whole group of people, and they lost all those picks to Boston. And they bottomed out, but then they had a nice young core, and now they're right back on top. So if you get the right owner and you're a destination.
We're going to do free agency thing and do that, but now, you mortgage your assets for a long time.
Yeah. Because like I said, the first round picks aren't that big a deal, but those pick swaps in 2026.
Those are going to be non-lottery picks.
Yeah, but the pick swaps in 2026, 2027, those are the ones where it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, those could be big. Those could be the influencer.
They could. They really could. And then,
whenever I watch the Lakers play now, they're as good as I've seen. When I watch the Laker highlights and I watch LeBron and AD getting even better playing together.
Oh, yeah.
They're just unbelievable.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I don't think anybody can touch that team. And barring injuries. Because Schroeder's been really nice for them. Kuzma looks like he's found a role for them. I'm still not sure if they want him on that team, but, he's doing what he can. Montrezl Harrell looks in the perfect role. Because, again, it was really AD that he couldn't play against. And now he's playing with AD. And you got, a guy like Montrezl Harrell giving you energy off the bench and points. You got those two young, you got the guy with the really long name. And then, I never remember the white kid's name they have on. But, again, those guys can play. And then Paul Gasol. Put together. And LeBron has that way of elevating everybody's game, just like Michael Jordan did.
Yeah.
He elevates all their games, and he's now becoming more of a authoritarian, more of a disciplinarian, more of an older figure that people respect, and they do whatever he says to do.
Yeah.
And you don't have anybody yapping in his ear, or nobody telling him, nobody trying to go up against him. Everybody realizes this guy's going to here to win a championship. He's going to help me win one. I'm going to make money, and I'm going to get a new ring. So.
Yeah, and again, a guy like you lost to White, you brought in Marc Gasol, and even though he's not the same, he's an incredibly cerebral player, knows where he needs to be, makes nice passes, Great passer, and again, you can throw him against Jokic, who's also having, Speaking of, we give our shout outs to people. Mark, the Joker is just destroying people in Denver. He looks fantastic. I know their records, they're just barely above 500. He's playing amazing basketball right now. And then with Mike,
we're not halfway through the season yet, so we've got a ways to go.
We do.
And people are going to get better, and some people are going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be a fun ride to the end. Let's put it that way.
In maybe the least surprising NBA story of the week, a certain player in Charlotte is unhappy with his playing time. If you can believe it. Yes, it is the Ball brother who feels like he's not getting enough run already, 13 games into his rookie season. He's putting out the vibe that he's unhappy with his playing time, which I think is pretty funny.
But, he's been brought up to feel he's the Messiah, so he's just being a Messiah.
It's true. But, I mean, he's got a very raw game that needs to develop. That team is playing surprisingly well this year. So, I mean, he does need to just sort of, shut up and play, as they say.
And you're being kind saying a raw game.
Yes.
Because he really hadn't played against anybody. He played some European players. He played some Australian players, European players, but not at a high level and not as an experienced player. Whereas in the NBA, he's playing against people that are very experienced, and they can stop his game very easily. And he's got to adjust to the speed.
He does.
Power of that game.
And with as amazing a passer as he is, he also has to understand, when you play basketball, or sports in general, but basketball especially, you have to make sure everybody's touching the ball, everybody's getting involved, and it can't just be on your glory passes where you're, driving down the lane and kicking the ball out behind your back. You need to make sure that, you know your teammates and understand where they like the ball, where they need the ball, who needs, when they need touches so they don't get bored. I mean, it's a whole thing, as they say.
Absolutely.
Well, let's transition to
let's talk about my Pirates, Jason.
Your Pirates, your childhood team.
My team I've been a fan of for over 60 years.
Yes.
And we're rebuilding, and I'm okay with it. And if you ask me right now, if the Pirates play 162 games, I will make a prediction that they're going to go 55 and 107.
I think that's even generous.
Might be generous, but that's what I'm going to predict.
Yeah. Well, because it sounds like Talian's on his way out now, and another pitcher. 2 more pitchers might be on their way out the door, too.
Yeah, Talian's probably going to be gone. And that might be it, because they've already gotten rid of Musgrove.
Yeah.
And they got a nice haul back for Musgrove. I don't know what they'll get for Talian, since he didn't pitch last year because he got Tommy John, but he's affordable for the next 2 years. His last full season was a good season. So we'll see. I mean, but he's doing the right thing. He's not trying to get some retreads to mix in with it. He's going with all youth and stockpiling talent. So I'm very appreciative of that. And then we have the number 1 pick in the draft, who I hope is going to be that pitcher from Vanderbilt who throws the ball 105 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think that unless we hear something bad about him on social media or he gets hurt, I don't see how that guy couldn't be first pick. I mean, that's...
Yeah, he'll immediately. And so if that happens, Mom and I will be tracing down to Bradenton for rookie games this year. I want to see all these prospects to trade for. In fact, they're probably ready to go there to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's just...
I watch my young guns now.
Yeah. I mean, you really hope that they at least, they have another 2-3 year window where they come up and be competitive. Or, I mean, ideally, you look at teams like the Rays that just seem to do it really well with it's a comparable team.
Well, as I've now entered my 70s, I'm hoping it's not too much longer for it. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm hoping by the time I'm 75, I will be watching a very competitive Pirate team.
It would be nice. Because those years with McCutchen, which seemed like they were probably way longer.
Very, very enjoyable. And I really liked McCutchen, too. And that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
He's such a good guy. So that was big for me.
It was.
Entertainment-wise.
Oh, I guess we should give a shout-out to the guy that knocked Conor McGregor out last night. Did you see any of that, just the highlights?
Talk
Yeah.
to me about it.
I mean, it was Conor McGregor's sort of comeback fight obviously in the UFC. He's obviously he's got to be the biggest draw. I mean, you got him and Khabib, and
Most recognizable name, and he's marketed himself very, very well.
Done a great job marketing himself. He looks like he's both people admire him and they think he's an asshole, which is pretty much everything you could possibly want if you're.
Yeah. Oh, I did see the shaved head. That was a new look, right?
It was a little more, yeah, and he got knocked out, and he looked bad.
Left on crutches.
Little blood, yeah. It does seem like, and again, neither of us are giant fight followers our entire lives by any stretch, but it seems like you get to a certain point and it's just over. And, you could argue it was after the Khabib fight, just like with Ronda Rousey when she came back, like it was, that fight was, that she didn't have it in her anymore, whatever it was. And I don't know if it should get a certain level of success.
You think he'll fight again?
What's that?
Are you saying you don't think he'll fight again?
I don't think he's going to fight a real fight. I think he might come back and, get one of those, like, Dana White will hype somebody up that's not quite as talented as he is and let him go out on it, Like in wrestling, in fake professional wrestling, they say you always want to go out on your back, so you lift somebody up. But I feel like in a sport like this, they tend to want you to go out on top. It's like a legend. So they might put him up against, a cupcake and let him get one win on the way out. Because I don't know. He's lost a couple in a row now. And
yeah, he's lost 3 of them. I think his last 6 fights, he's 3-3.
Yeah. And he's retired, unretired. He's flirted, it does seem that thing too. And I'll just bring it back to the Steelers and Roethlisberger. But I think when you flirt with retirement as often as you do, like, that's on your mind and it plays through, it pops up throughout, it's that hunger, that drive, it can come back, but is it that 24-hour, 7-day week burn, or is it something that, is more like a couple hours a day nostalgia? So,
There's no question he's been big for the UFC. He's done a good job for the UFC.
Yeah. And again, speaking of the sports entertainment field, he would be a fantastic WWE or AEW superstar. And with Vince McMahon competing against Tony Khan for the best wrestlers and the best prize money, I'm sure he could sign like a Brock Lesnar like deal and come fight like 4 times a year at the major pay-per-views and make, $10 million a fight in the WWE and not really get hurt. So, I could see that on the horizon because he can talk,
He can definitely talk. There's no question about that.
And it looks like, from what I've seen, like a lot of those UFC guys can make a pretty good transition because they're good at the grabs and the throws, and they understand how to punch, and I'm sure they understand how to pull a punch and hit hard and spar. So, I could see that being a really good spot for him. Even if he just comes in as like a manager and they pair him up with a couple of other, like a couple of soccer hooligans that are like his tag team that he manages and he occasionally punches people or whatever. He's a big draw, and I think he would bring eyes to that sport even more. So that would be my prediction. I think he's going to end up in AEW or WWE.
All right, good story to watch. On the entertainment side, I want to talk about Turner Classic Movies. If you're not a movie buff like Jason and I, you should be. And it's some great entertainment. Turner Classic Movies gives you commentary, they give you insight, they give you reasons to watch, they explain things to you. It's just really well done. And the Turner Classic Movie Festival in April is getting virtual again. And I want to spend some time talking about that as we get closer to it, because I want to tell people why they should watch it and what's out there and what they're going to be honoring this year. I know it's the 80th year of the classic Maltese Falcon. In fact, that is in theaters this week. If you want to go to a theater and watch it, which most of us don't. But
No, and that is a classic. That's a great movie.
They've been doing that with a number of their classic movies this year.
Yes, they have. And Maltese Falcon's it's a fantastic film.
It's one of my all-time favorite classics, and I have a Maltese Falcon in my living room.
Yes, you do.
And then for food, Dave Farrakhan, good friend, bought me a gift card for my 70th birthday to go on Goldbelly, and I ordered pizza from Tony's Neapolitan in San Francisco, and it was really, really good. I really, really enjoyed it. if you haven't tried Biltmbelly, please try it. You can get food from almost all the iconic spots in the U.S. And if you like pizza or barbecue or cupcakes or whatever it might be, you're going to get the best in the barbecue. You're going to get the best of the best of the best.
It's very true.
Can never say enough good things about that. And then I talked about Jason had given Sharon and I this cake cookbook from this place in New Orleans that we all like, and given an iconic chocolate cupcake there. And Sharon ate them last week, and they were for my birthday. They were iconic chocolate cupcakes. They were amazing.
Very nice. Well, I think for my food moment, I'm actually going to give, I know a place I've mentioned multiple times here, and that's Mayhew, the Mayhew Bakery at Mid-City. And they had a special every Thursday where you get a king cake and a pizza, because king cake season in Mardi Gras. And I've never been the biggest king cake fan, because I always feel like there's slightly less exciting cinnamon buns, depending on where you go. And I know that's absolutely not a New Orleans thing to say, but I'm not from here, so it's okay. But the cream cheese cinnamon one from Mayhew, and again, it's a bakery, so they've got the bread part down. But in some places they inject the cream cheese after. This is when they bake it in, so it almost forms like a thin cheesecake on the bottom to go along with the cinnamon roll and the icing, and it's pretty decadent, but it's really quite good.
Okay, well, Mardi Gras like what, 2 weeks away or less than 2 weeks away?
I'm not even sure. I know the houses. There's a lot of decorated houses up already.
Yeah.
Oh, and I found the baby in the king cake, so I am also king of my house for now.
Nice.
Yeah. But also I'm supposed to buy another king cake, because that's supposedly the rule. But
Oh, we can find the baby.
yeah.
Is there a baby in every king cake?
It varies, because you basically, obviously it's a tiny pink plastic baby that's stuffed in the cake. So it's clearly a choking hazard. So sometimes they just give you the baby on the top, and it's your responsibility to put the baby in yourself. Other times you get a little sticker that says, we get them at work all the time too, and it's like plastic baby inside, be careful. Because, everybody eats them down here, kid. It's a whole thing. So if you do eat king cake.
I asked this because I was watching the Amazing Race this year.
Yeah.
And it ended up in New Orleans. And one of the things was you had to find the baby in the king cake. And they had these trays and trays and trays and trays of king cakes. And it was only not everyone had a baby in it. That's why I was asking.
No, everyone comes with one. It's either in the cake or it's on the side of it for you to put in to, monitor. I do feel like it's such a tradition down here, though. If you're a kid, you're probably aware that, you want to get the king or the baby, but it's not like it's a random, thrown in there. Like, you're aware that there's a tiny plastic baby you have to worry about. So.
And sadly, they have canceled Mardi Gras again, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, people are decorating random houses, and you can drive by some of the houses and see their displays.
Okay. So it's going to be like a safety within your car thing rather than going to a parade.
Yes.
Or is there going to be a parade?
No parades.
No parade, okay.
We're in an all-time high in this pandemic, and I know we have some hope, obviously, with the vaccine and whatnot, but, we have 4,000 people dying. It's just not a time to be taking chances. And a drunken parade all over the city with people coming in from around the world does not seem like the smartest activity. So.
No, it's good. It's sad, but it's the right decision.
Yeah, and again, I think some people are going to make some virtual tours of, where there's, you can, so, because obviously driving and looking at houses can be fun for everybody but the driver. So I'm sure they're going to try to come up with other ways to, incorporate that. And, but again, you can still support all the local businesses by ordering food, and, make your own in-house Mardi Gras. I'm sure all the bands have websites where they sell, the bands that normally play probably sell their merchandise on their websites. You could go buy shirts or vinyl or whatever, there's ways you can still support and be, Mardi Gras up down here, I think. Just like with everything, if you can still support other people's businesses, make sure you do so as much as possible.
All right. Well, everybody, next week we'll be talking Super Bowl. We'll be giving our predictions and trying to break down these 4 games this week, these 2 games this week. So we'll look forward to that, and we'll continue with our NBA and maybe a little bit more baseball as we get closer. If there's any trades or any developments, we'll be all over those as well.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thank you for your continued support. Till next week.